Value Home.
Nothing else sounds as good as
WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And we are back. We're going to talk some more. And what are we going to talk about right now? We are going to be talking about the high grade. Again, yes, we're going on. We're going to discuss the marijuana a little bit more. So just in case you had some points before and you didn't get to make your points, now is the time to do so. 457-9997. That's our WhatsApp number. That's our landline number. Contact us. All right.
All right, so I know that some persons were trying to get in before, so this is your opportunity to call on the topic in terms of whatever points were being made before, right? So just I was able to just quickly do some online research. No, I prefer to do research that's a little bit in depth, so that at least you have information that's a bit more corroborated. But all right, so one of the questions, so Dianna was making the point of she doesn't believe that marijuana is a gateway drug, right? And in looking for something here that was published last December, actually, the 31st of December, so this is fairly recent. In a survey conducted over 1,000 Americans, they actually ranked alcohol as being the gateway substance, all right? They're saying that alcohol for many persons, 65.8% of individuals who have tried to use other drugs or who have used other drugs, that alcohol was actually the main gateway drug. And they're saying that after alcohol, there was marijuana, which was 18.1%. All right. So that's just something to note there. So maybe Dianna's point is correct, maybe. But of course, in this, just in this first instance, in terms of information that I came across, they're actually ranking alcohol as being that. All right. Mm-hmm. In another question, another topic, another point that we made in terms of the ranking of drugs, because again, some persons think that marijuana is dangerous. Some persons may rank cocaine as being dangerous, etc. In another survey that was conducted, well, this information came out in 2015. So it may or may not be valid now, given that now it's 2025, but who knows, right? So what they actually said with regards to the most dangerous drugs, both to harm for users as well as harm to others, is actually alcohol as well. All right. But this is a survey that was conducted in the UK. So they're saying with regards to harm to the individuals, it's actually alcohol. But the thing of it is that in terms of alcohol, it's actually more harm to others. And I think it lends to the point that Dianna was making, where alcohol is really and truly what is the triggering effect for many things that we see happening in society, whether it's crime, whether it's violence, whether it's, well, violence is a form of crime, but in terms of persons reacting or instant reaction or things that happen to other persons, alcohol really is a spill-off effect. They're actually saying that in terms of the ranking, that marijuana is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth down the line. All right. So before marijuana, there's heroin, there is crack cocaine, methamphetamine, cocaine, tobacco, amphetamine, and then marijuana falls below all of that. Right. So, I mean, at a first glance, this is just the information that we're coming across. Really and truly, I would have preferred to do a little bit more in-depth research to be able to either support or if you're not supposed to point as what you're going against the point, right? So that's what. Right. But at the first instance, actually, alcohol seems to be classified as the more dangerous drug as opposed to us on this discussion with regards to marijuana. So it's a bit of an interesting topic here. All right. Oh, so good morning to Jeff. You're listening to us from an airport. So good morning to you. All right. Yes.
Okay.
All right. And Joshua is making a point that the topic is best discussed by professionals. And Joshua, I do agree, but this is why sometimes I like to do the Google searches just to be able to get multiple sets of information to see whether or not a point is actually correct. But just as I said, just at a first glance, this is what seems to be the point, that alcohol is the more common or more severe drug. And the interesting thing is that alcohol is legal, at least legal for persons over the age of 18.
You know, that's what I usually say, you know, that's the one that's legal. And then the other stuff, you know, they're illegal. But it's interesting to know. That's why I really would like to sit down, because I've been Googling for the longest while and I haven't been able to find it. To sit or have a conversation with the persons who are reaching real high here, hanging my hat high, as we say, but the persons who come up with the requirements for things to be considered illegal, well, drugs in particular, you know, because I want to know what are the requirements. Like, it must be 6 inches tall, 5 feet wide, you know, blue, green, purple. What are the requirements for something to be considered illegal? Because I'm genuinely curious as to why marijuana was declared. I mean, I have a theory because of what marijuana is associated with, but yeah, let's take the call. Yeah, I want to know why it was labeled that. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Roberts.
Hola.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Roberts.
Can you hear me now?
Give me a call. Yes, my dear. Good morning to you too.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
We hearing you, Dave. We hearing.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Are you hearing me?
We are. So you're not hearing us, so your phone has a problem.
Well, I'm hearing you guys. So far away. This is really, I don't know. Like, if I want to fall out with
your phone is the problem.
Or something, because I'm hearing some talking, but so far I don't. You know, it's. Let me call again.
All right. All righty. All right. So you were saying about why it is that it became illegal. It really and truly, if this information is correct, it really and truly had to do with the US back in the 80s, 90s, and their war on drugs. Because back in the day, they used to send, what was it? It's helicopters or whatever it was. They used to have these, oh gosh, my mind is very foggy with this because I would have been very young at the time. But these planes, I think, would come down to survey, I think, either our drug fields, our marijuana fields, and have them being burnt as a consequence. Somebody could update me in terms of that, but yeah, that was something that used to happen back in the day. So I think it's more of a case of, again, if internationally they state that it is wrong, or in this case it is harmful, and I'm not going to make it seem as if it's not necessarily harmful, but it is harmful to certain individuals. You can't say that it is for the majority, right? But they did impose that on us, and as a result, because we are small island developing states, you know, we had to go along with many of the measures. I think it was the Reagan administration who declared the war on drugs. Let me Google again.
The world is an interesting place. But I was making, well, we're just gonna say this final thing that I was saying before, as it relates to well, let me explain to the persons that I disagreed with.
Sorry, it was Nixon.
Okay.
Nixon administration. All right.
Okay. Now, the reason why I disagree with it being called a gateway drug or anything being called a gateway is because I don't think the drug or whatever plant is what causes the person to go to it. Of course, there are persons who experiment out of curiosity. I can't really speak to that, but let's say they're just curious. You see somebody doing it and you want to do it. We've heard about those persons, but there are people who are genuinely going through things and they turn to the drugs, the marijuana, the alcohol or whatever to numb the pain.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing with some people could sit down and eat food instead rather than
Right.
dealing with the pain. They sit down and they eat food. Some persons may starve themselves to death. You know, so people do have different coping mechanisms, or quote unquote coping mechanisms to deal with the things that they're going through. But again, as I said before, maybe for some persons, when you're young in particular, it's about peer pressure, right? Some persons think it's
Yeah.
cool. We notice every carnival, right? We hear so many songs coming out about drinking rum and tumbling down and getting drunk and vomiting and this and that.
behaving like animal.
You know, you hear of the glorification of it. In many of our songs as well, you know, we were joking around and we were saying legalize it. That one of those songs, that was a cartel, part of a line in a cartel song. You know, I could sing that song and I quite cool with it, you know, but that doesn't mean that I am going to be somebody who's going to be smoking a weed. You know, I can be in the presence of a person smoking weed and not feel the need to smoke it myself, you know. So I really do think that sometimes what we do is that we take away that responsibility from persons, that self-responsibility in terms of saying, okay, well, I choose not to take part in something for whatever reason. We take away that. But again, not everybody can be as strong and as independent in thought and in terms of actions to say, well, this isn't for me. So I kind of think it does come down to personal choices as well, because I could be going through whatever it is that I'm going through. I could be poor. I could have no money, but it's not going to cause me to steal, right? I could be poor. I could be depressed, but it's not going to cause me to drink alcohol. It's not going to cause me to smoke weed, you know? So again, to a greater extent, it comes down to me, my personal opinion, to personal responsibility and personal choice.
All righty then. And with that, we are heading out because it's 9:02 and we got to bring our ECCB bank rates to you.
WEFM